The following is a presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for high school sports. This is Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN.
Good Saturday morning to you. AJ Shaw with you, your host of Scoreboard Saturday on this first Saturday in February 2024. Tell you, those Kansas City Chiefs, they're back, and they're not messing around. The Chiefs, of course, beating Baltimore 17-10 in the AFC Championship game, as heard here on News Radio KMAN last Sunday. And then later, the San Francisco 49ers coming back from a halftime deficit against the Detroit Lions to win 34-31. So we have a rematch of the 54th Super Bowl that was down in Miami a few years ago. Now, the unfortunate reality is that after that Super Bowl, we had a worldwide pandemic that shut everything down, and yeah, I don't really want to get into further with that. You guys know what happened. So let's hope that this time around we don't have that case. So that means we need San Francisco. I'm kidding. I'm kidding about San Francisco winning. But Chiefs and 49ers are your Super Bowl. Not that surprised. I know a lot of people were picking that. I mean, I know Peter Schrager from Good Morning Football had made that prediction first game of the year. Although there were some people saying, Chiefs-Lions would be a great Super Bowl, and that was the first game of the season, if we recall. But we talk high school basketball on this show. Welcome in, of course, to Scoreboard Saturday here on News Radio KMAN, brought to you by the great folks at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network, internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. Got a lot to get into this week. In our third segment, we'll sit down with Rock Creek boys coach Justin Smith, his team with another win last night as they picked up a victory on the road at Riley County. And Rock Creek now 13-1 for the season and currently with a big lead in the Mid-East League. We'll also dive into the standings, the new KBCA rankings. But first, we got to start off with those Manhattan Indians. The Tribe last night going on the road to Topeka Hayden. The boys coming away with a massive victory. Tony Ingram, the assistant coach, one of the top assistant coaches to Benji George, filling in last night, and his team was able to come away with a big win. Ian McNabb, a huge ball game, a career-high 18 points, and Mitch Fortner had an opportunity to sit down with Coach Ingram after the game.
In post-game with Tony Ingram, Manhattan assistant coach, but he gets the head coaching duties tonight. Coach, what a performance by your team tonight. Let's first start with the things that you don't find on the depth charts. The guts, the grit, the fight. You're down double digits in the second quarter. Get within two. From there on, your team takes over. Great performance.
Well, thank you, Mitch. I'm very proud of the boys. Like you said, that fight, that grit. Those are things that we were talking to them the whole time about. Defensively, you got to come and stay in front. Don't gamble. Those are things that we're getting into the line, getting them to spray the ball and share it. So with that, I'm proud of the boys. And second half adjustments, first half adjustments, they come out on fire, knock down some shots. So the boys kind of were coached and or changed things along the way.
Well, let's talk about those adjustments. Like, what was a key adjustment or two that you made that led to things changing?
Yeah, the coaches were in my ear quite a bit about staying one. We were making and missing a little bit with zone and man, and we did that. But when we did that, our guards were still gambling a little bit. They were still getting into the paint and get paint touches and or getting past our first-level defense and sharing the ball, and that really hurt us. So at halftime, we talked about keeping the chest in front. Don't go for the gamble. You might get 2 steals in 6 games, right? On ball defense. So those were things and adjustments we made. The last thing we talked about was rebounding the ball. We could get up there around the rim, and there were some really what we call wow rebounds there late in the game.
Let's call it a couple of players here. I mean, Ian McNabb, nobody was better tonight getting to the rim, fighting for position and getting those layups that Ian McNabb, I don't know if you've seen the final numbers, but he finishes with 18 points tonight. What did you think about Ian tonight?
Ian's ability to get to the rim, take some contact, and finish. No doubt his back's probably a little hurt because we rode him and his success. He's a competitor. And sometimes that competitiveness goes astray, but man, you know that competitiveness. I'll take that every day, and we'll take that every day as far as going and playing defense, but getting to the rim and being able to finish. Yeah.
That third quarter, were you just wanting to get out of that third quarter because of the fouls? They rolled up early. Hayden gets to the bonus, and I mean Padilla couldn't miss.
Yeah, the clock couldn't run enough. We talked about that. The other adjustment we made was going under some of his ball screens. He had a great game. I mean, granted, he got to the free throw line, but at the same time, we could not stay with him. And he's a lefty, and we talked about those type of things. There were possession there late in the fourth quarter where they had a couple open looks and they were front of the rim. So I think some of the defensive pressure that we had and lack of depth on their side played into our favor somewhat. But I'm so proud of the boys, especially in the position we were there in that first quarter and second quarter. There's some resiliency there. And we talked about it's hard to win, in the Centennial League. There's not an easy game, especially on the road. So they showed some toughness, and that was what I told them when we got in the locker room. We were just tougher longer.
Let's talk about you. What was this like for you tonight to step into the captain's chair and then drop the X's and O's?
You know what? Coach George has been so kind to me for letting me be a part of his program. He allows me the opportunity to watch my daughters, which is extremely important to me. And, he's one of those that he gives his coaches an opportunity to coach within the program. And he listens to us, and he's developed a great program that it has been consistent. And so I'm just proud and proud to be a part of his coaching staff. The opportunity, that's what I'm there for. That's what the assistant coach is there for if something like this comes along, and I'm just happy that we got a win. And one last thing I told the boys is that I would rather come and get the W like that rather than coming in and winning by 20 or 25 or whatever the case may be. So proud of the boys, and that hopefully this will springboard us into Monday night versus Washburn.
Well, I'm sure, Coach George handing the keys over to you. You guys have been working so long together that was probably the easiest part of missing the game. I mean, Coach doesn't want to miss a game, but if he knows you're in charge, I'm sure he thought things will be A-okay. You've known these boys for such a long time. These boys have been playing together for probably since they were kids. I don't know how long you've been working with them, but, what a great group of kids to work with and get your first opportunity like this with.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be a part of the JV program last year and the head of it, and Coach S does a great job at that JV level this year, and Coach Kibasov, he's doing wonders at the freshman level. So we have a great coaching staff. We get together. We know we get along, and we know that we can share ideas with Benji, and he listens to us, and that's when you feel belonging part of that, you're going to buy in.
Well, now I get to make a little space on my chart here that says Tony Ingram 1-0.
You know what, Mitch? I will take it. That's a great win for us, and we look forward to getting back on the court tomorrow morning and get a little bit better and start to prepare for Washburn.
Coach, that comeback was a lot of fun to watch. The energy your team had in that second half, I was feeding off it. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun. Congratulations on the win.
I appreciate it, Mitch.
Assistant Coach Tony Ingram here in postgame.
Mitch Fortner with interim head coach Tony Ingram, who is now 1-0 as Manhattan boys basketball coach. And Benji George wrote this on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, after the game. Man, that was stressful watching our guys compete and not being able to be out there. Big shout out to Coach Ingram, Taylor Saberwaith, and Coach Kabisov. Proud of our guys for bouncing back after a slow start to get the 68-56 win. Hashtag Rise Together. So the Tribe are now 9-5, 3-1 in league play. Big week next week for them. That includes back-to-back home games against Washburn Rural. That's a makeup game from last month on Monday, and then the regularly scheduled contest against Topeka High on Tuesday, and then they got to hit the road on Friday. We've been talking about this game, I know, a lot over the last couple of weeks. Next Friday, they got to go on the road, 30 minutes down the road from here to Junction City for a game against a top 10 opponent in 6A in the state of Kansas. So busy week ahead of them, but the good news for Benji George, Tony Ingram's squad, 4 of their last 6 games are going to be at home to wrap up the season. So you'll definitely take that. They were on a bit of a lull right there. They had lost 3 in a row. That included tough losses in overtime to Blue Valley Stillwell and a 7-point loss to Emporia where they blew a late lead. But a comeback from a double-digit deficit against a Hayden team that, while not great record-wise, really has played well at home this year. Last night was pretty darn good for them. Again, Ian McNabb with the 18 points. That's a career high. And again, Washburn Rural on Monday, Topeka High Tuesday, Junction City on Friday. So 3 games in 5 days. Not going to be easy. You're facing 3 teams. Topeka High, not playing great, but they're always tough. The Centennial League is definitely a gauntlet. So we have to take our first break. But when we come back, we'll dive into Manhattan girls, who are on the road against the number 2 team in the state of Kansas in their portion of the class, and their effort as they tried to go for the near upset. We'll sit down with Manhattan girls coach Scott Mall when we come back on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications. Back here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN. AJ Shaw with you. Of course, in our first segment, we discussed the big victory on the road down in Topeka, or I shouldn't say down in Topeka. A couple hours down the road in Topeka when the Wildcats were able to pick up the victory against Topeka Hayden. A 68-56 win for the Tribe last night, so they're now 9-5. But now we'll dive into Manhattan girls, who had the earlier game, and they were going up against a Topeka Hayden team on the girls' portion of the bracket. That's number 2 in 3A. They just sit behind an unbeaten Silver Lake team that is 15-0. And speaking of Silver Lake, they dominated St. Mary's last night, 64-34, a 30-point win. So you're going into a place where you're facing the number 2 team. You've been struggling of late. Going back to the 18th of January, you've lost 5 of 6. I just spoiled it. Now 6 of 7. And they put up a valiant effort at Scott Mall's team. You know, they haven't had a home game since the 5th of January, so you're going back a month since the last time they had a home game. And you're going in against the number 2 team in the country. You've dropped 5 of 6, and you go out and you have arguably your best performance of the season in a loss. And after the game, Mitch was able to talk with head coach Scott Mall.
For the Manhattan girls, their upset bid falls short against the number 2 team in 3A. Final score as Manhattan falls to Hayden 57-54. I'm now joined here in postgame by Manhattan girls head coach Scott Mall. Coach, you fall short there a little bit, but I got to ask you about your team's fight in this game. You lead by 3 at the half. You had a bigger lead than that, but you never went away as Hayden started making some shots. Your team fought the entire way.
Yeah, I was so proud of how hard our girls played. We worked so hard on the defensive end. We made plays on the offensive end, just kept ourselves in it. I thought, they hit one. We got a couple of threes early in the second half where we didn't get as close to Myers as we wanted to, and she made us pay. But the 2 big shots, they hit the 2 long threes from girls who usually don't hit long threes, and that was a big difference. And then the other thing is I wish we could have done more to draw more fouls and get to the free throw line. When they only had 1 foul in the second half. If we could have drawn some fouls and got to the free throw line and got them in foul trouble, that might have helped us too.
Well, what do you think about your defense? I mean, you guys were forcing some bad passes, stripping away the ball from the paint towards, the opposite baseline. You guys were making a lot of plays all over the floor defensively against a very good Hayden team.
Yeah, I thought our girls worked really hard on defense. Like I said, we made them make some bad passes. We wanted our girls to really stay in their face all the time when they had the ball to make them make a mistake, and we knew we were outsized inside, but our inside girls really did a good job of working hard to keep the ball out there. Had a lot of nice plays in the first half where we came in and helped when they logged it inside, a lot of times they're playing with 6'4" girls, and our tallest girl is 5'9" out there against us. So our girls really battled them inside and gave ourselves a chance.
Now in that first half, you mentioned fouls earlier, and at one point, really a half, you had 5 players with 2 fouls each. Was that tough to navigate the foul situation about who to have on, and are you just hoping to get to halftime with nobody with 3 fouls?
Yeah, we tried to work until we tried to get them in and out. I hate it when they get 2 fouls and then they maybe pick up one because they're a little tired or so we tried to get them out with 2 and then give them a chance to get back in. They all did a good job. Maxine got 2 pretty quick, but she came back and played in the second quarter with 2 fouls and played in the second half, a long time before she picked up that 5th one late when we had to go after the ball.
And last question is about just shooting the basketball because, the first 2 games of the Mid-American Classic, it was just – you had the shots there, they just weren't falling, and the layups weren't falling. I don't have the final numbers, but it just felt tonight was just a better field goal percentage day for your team. Did you feel like that, or were you encouraged about how much the shots were falling? You finished with 6 threes, and also you made some tough layups.
Yeah, I thought our girls we hit good shots when we had them. There were some times we left a couple out there, but that's going to happen a little bit. But when we got good looks, the girls put it in the hole. I thought we did a good job on the offensive boards at getting the ball. It's like Maxine and Kat seems like are everywhere all the time. Kat saved us a bunch in the first half when they got a break against our press. It saved us. But I don't know how she picks up so many offensive rebounds at her size. But I thought we did a good job on the boards. I thought there were times we let them get set in the lane. They're just so tough because they got the 3 big girls and 2 of them are good out away from the basket. The other one's big and strong inside, and then they have a couple really good guards, a good shooter, and some good ball handlers. And they play a tough defense. They're man-to-man. They're very physical and aggressive. Then they play that half-court trap, which makes it hard to get into any offense. We tried to make sure we tried to just be aggressive against it, and I thought the girls did a good job of that.
Are you ready for now next week? 3 games in 5 days, back-to-back Monday, Tuesday, and then they play Friday at Junction City.
Yeah, it'll be tough. But our girls, I told them after the game, if we play like this in the rest of the games, we have a great chance to be. Because Hayden is as balanced as any team in our league. They're very talented. I think they have 1 league loss to Emporia. That's it. But the way we played tonight, if we can play that and then get a couple of breaks, anything we want that to have happen can happen. Our girls are just dialed in right now. They're playing really hard, doing what they need to do as a team.
Your ball just been short, but a negative effort tonight. Coach, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, man.
That's Manhattan girls head coach Scott Mull.
Mitch Fortner, once again, thanks for helping us out last night. He's was down in Topeka for that one. Still, I believe, is down there, but we appreciate his help. But again, the girls really put in a good effort last night, and ignore the scoreboard for what it is. That was a great effort, and Scott Mull's team has a lot to be proud of. And just like the guys, they have 4 of their last 6 games at home, but 3 games in 5 days next week. That's going to be tough, even with the 2 games at home against Washburn Rural and Topeka High on Monday and Tuesday. That's a back-to-back. And those are never ideal, and we saw them earlier this year kind of struggle in a back-to-back when they went to Emporia and Blue Valley Stillwell. But you have to deal with it. It's part of the game, and that's just what you have to deal with at times. Looking around the rest of the Centennial League, we look at the girls' standings. Of course, Coach Mull mentioned there that the only loss for Topeka Hayden was to an Emporia team that's 12-1 overall and 4-0 in conference play. Emporia last night picked up a 21-point, 43-22 victory over Washburn Rural at home. They have another game today on the road down at Junction City. Junction City's struggling right now. They only have 1 win on the season, 1-13. They were losers last night to Topeka High in Topeka. Of course, Manhattan sitting in 4th. Half game back overall of Washburn Rural, even though they haven't played the Junior Blues yet. Of course, they'll play them on Monday. Both teams 2-2 in conference play. So that's a game that could be determining 3rd place in the Centennial League on the girls' portion of things. Of course, we mentioned Washburn Rural was a loser last night to Emporia. Topeka Hayden, of course, the girls sitting at 13-1. And I mean, if you look at their loss to Emporia, it was a 14-point loss for them. It was the first game of the Centennial League schedule for them. They had come out of the non-con and the winter break at 5-0. And ever since then, they've won 8 straight games. Their next game will be on the road at Emporia on Tuesday. So that could be a game that could determine Centennial League standings when it comes to the end of the season. Then they got Washburn Rural and Junction City. So they got 3 consecutive games on the road, but then they got Topeka High at home to wrap up their home portion of the schedule. They have a makeup game with Eudora on the 22nd of February. So 5 of their last 6 games are going to be on the road. That is not ideal for the Topeka Hayden girls. So you got Emporia sitting at the top. Hayden's in second, 4-1 in conference. Washburn Rural and Manhattan at 2-2. Topeka High 1-4 in conference, and Junction City 0-4. The only winless team in the Centennial League. Now over to the boys portion. Junction City, pretty comfortable lead in terms of overall wins. 13-2 for the season. Nick Perez's team 4-1. They had a dominant win over Topeka High last night. The final in that one was 83-49. 13-2 now. And you go back to the Olathe South game. They've won 4 in a row since then, which includes 3 straight victories in conference. Their only loss in conference to Manhattan in that tight 65-64 game back on the 5th of January. They, of course, lost the game to Olathe South, the championship game up at Spring Hill in the tournament. But they got Washburn Rural on Monday and Tuesday. Washburn Rural on Tuesday. And Washburn Rural, despite an overall losing record of 6-8, sitting at 3-1 in conference play. So a loss for Junction City on Tuesday could mean the Junior Blues jump into that number 1 spot. Emporia at 9-5 overall, 3-2 in conference. They hold the tiebreaker over Manhattan as they beat them last week in Emporia. You have the Tribe, of course, sitting at 9-5. Topeka High, 5-10 with a 1-4 conference record. And then Topeka Hayden boys, the opposite of Topeka Hayden girls, struggling, 4-10. But that's a much better team on the court than their record shows from what we saw last night. 0-5 in Centennial League play. Just shows you how tight that conference is. I mean, of the 2 BRAC sides of the league, you have 1 winless team. Junction City's the only winless team in conference on the girls' side. Hayden's the only winless team on the boys' side in conference play. I mean, it's tight. It's tight, and that's not a surprise whatsoever because that's what Centennial League basketball is, and that's just how it is, folks. I mean, we know how it's going to be every single year. Diving now over into the NCKL, we don't really have a ton on them this week, but really not much changes. Wamego girls, pretty big lead, sitting at 4-0 in conference, 13-1. They remain in the top 2 in 4A girls this week in the KBCA rankings, just behind Bishop Miege. We'll dive a little bit into KBCA rankings a little bit later on in the program. But 13-1, they were able to take down Eudora at home last night, 39-26. That included a win earlier this week against an Abilene team that still hasn't won a game, 49-33. They have a couple of road games next week. They got to go to Chapman on Tuesday and then back to Abilene on Friday. So 2 games in 10 days with Abilene. Then you got Clay Center at home on the 13th. That's a big ball game because Clay Center is a game and a half back in the NCKL standings on the girls' side of the bracket. 7-7 overall. The Lady Tigers have kind of slipped a little bit after their strong 6-2 start. They've only won one of their last 6 games, which is definitely not ideal. But they got Republic County. They got Marysville at home. They got, just like Manhattan, 4 of their last 6 games at home. They got 3 of their last 6 games at home, so it's an even split down the middle. I miscounted there. Their final game will be on the road at Abilene on the 22nd. They got Concordia on the road on the 20th. A lot of these games were originally supposed to end. The regular season was supposed to end on the 20th. You get a week before Sub-State, but with a lot of the postponements that we've had to see, they've had to move a lot of games around. But, I mean, look at some of these losses. They got beat by a great Silver Lake team that's unbeaten on the road. We'll talk a little bit about Silver Lake in the next segment when we sit down and discuss the Mid-East League and also talk about Rock Creek boys who are playing fantastic. They lost a 4-point game to Southeast of Saline, and even in this stretch where they won, it was a 7-point overtime win last Friday to Smoky Valley for Clay Center. So at that point they were 7-5, but since then it hasn't gone well. And it started with that Hillsborough tournament when they got beat by 20 by Hillsborough. Something since then just hasn't clicked. But they've played a lot of tough teams. Southeast of Saline's a good team. Chapman's a solid team. Silver Lake is one of the best teams in the state of Kansas. So Clay Center going into that game on the 13th against Wamego, that could be a big ball game for them. Abilene girls, as I mentioned, 0-14. They got to win one at some point, can't they? They got Concordia on the 6th and Wamego on the 9th. Concordia girls playing pretty good. They got a road tilt today with Sacred Heart. I don't know why I said Sacred Heart. They won a narrow one on Tuesday over a TVL team in Clifton Clyde, 50-49, who definitely held their own. Concordia girls sitting at 6-4 on the season. Chapman girls, the opposite, struggling, but they're starting to play a little bit better after their 2-7 start. They've won 3 of their last 5. They lost, unfortunately, last night to Southeast of Saline, 44-31. That's a good team. They had back-to-backs. They had 3 games in 4 days. That's not ideal at all. You don't want to be in a situation where you have to, play multiple games in multiple days. But looking at the NCKL standings, we said Clay Center 3-2, Marysville at 3-3 in conference despite a losing overall record, Concordia 2-1, Chapman 2-3 in conference, and Abilene at 0-5. Over on the boys portion, Abilene 2-game lead over Clay Center for the top spot at 5-0. The Cowboys are 12-2, so sitting pretty comfortably with 3 weeks to go in the season. The closest to Clay Center, Concordia 2-1, Marysville 2-5, but Abilene looking like they may have a good wrap right now on the boys portion of the NCKL standings. When we come back, we sit down with Rock Creek boys coach Justin Smith and also dive into the Mid-East League standings. It's all coming up next on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications. We're back. Time and place, Saturday morning. The location, News Radio KMAN. I shouldn't say location. The station, News Radio KMAN. Your host, AJ Shaw, with you. As we're back here on Scoreboard Saturday on this very rainy Saturday. Beautiful weather week, by the way, here in Manhattan. We had 60s almost every day. Pretty incredible. And I certainly will take that, but we're going to get a lot of rain this week, apparently. But that's just how wintertime is in this area of the country, in this region, and it wouldn't be the Flint Hills without crazy weather and weird temperatures, and yeah. Anyways, we're back on Scoreboard Saturday. We dove into Manhattan High girls, their valiant effort last night, and their 3-point loss at Topeka Hayden. We dove a little bit into the NCKL standings as well as the Centennial League standings. In this segment, we'll dive into Mid-East League. But first, we'll sit down with Justin Smith, the Rock Creek boys coach that joins us here on the phone. And, Coach, you start off with having to play back-to-back games. You had a game last night at Riley County. The night before that, you had to go to Rossville to make that one up. How were you guys just able to respond so well having to play those 2 games?
Well, and last night was a really physical, demanding game. I mean, Rossville's really good. We got a bunch of talented kids, and it was a good game, and it was tight all the way through, and it took a lot out of us, and it took us a little bit for us to get going, this tonight. But after the first quarter, we kind of got settled in, hit some shots, and it's better. And honestly, we've only played 1 home game the whole month of January. So we played about 10 games on the road just in this month alone. So it's just one of the things that we've had to fight through that adversity, and the kids did a good job tonight.
You now have 3 weeks left in the season. You do now have a bit of a home stretch coming up to wrap up your season, which is going to be nice with 4 of your last 5 games. Talk a little bit about the game tonight. Who really stood out to you, and what was kind of the key to your guys' success?
Yeah, tonight, Brady Snyder really played well. I think he ended up with 18 or 20 and probably around 10 rebounds as well. I thought he did a great job being physical, and they have some big guys that can kind of give you problems. And they also played some zone stuff, and he did a good job in the middle of the zone just being active. And, I thought he did a really nice job. And and some other guys like Gavin Rosa hit some shots, Peter Martini, Coley Burgess has been good for us all year, Dagan Nadeska. And really just team effort. The kids did a good job.
You mentioned Dagan Vinduska, who's also on the football team. Talk a little bit about two-sport athletes. How are they able to kind of translate their success on the football field over to the hardwood?
Well, the biggest thing is the toughness aspect of it. Dagan's a tough kid. I mean, he works really hard, and really, that's the one thing about this team is we have 5 seniors, and even the underclassmen are playing as well. The one thing I talk about all the time is defense travels, and you can always defend, you can always rebound it. And this team has really bought into that concept. And just like the last 2 nights, our offense hasn't been great, but we've done enough just because we've shown some toughness, and we've been pretty good there.
Your defense also was big again tonight. You held another opponent under 40 points. What kind of goes into your defense's success?
The big thing that we discuss all the time is we're trying to take people away from the rim. We want to make everybody into jump shooters. And then we got to make sure that they shoot it into our ball. And so the kids have done a really good job, and this is probably one of the better defensive groups I've had as a head coach. And, we had stretches of night that we were lazy and we weren't very good. And, once we got locked in and, last night and even last week at Wamego when we held Wamego to 32, I mean, the kids do a really good job when they buy in because we're pretty long and decently athletic. And when they really work at it and really play team defense, it's kind of hard to score against us.
Coach, you're currently sitting at 7 in the KBCA rankings. I know you're probably not focused on that, but just getting that state recognition, how does that feel for you as a coach and for your players?
It's even props to them, not so much to me because we're just trying to take one game at a time. But, I think we've gotten – and it's taken us a while to get ranked, and I think we had to go to Burlington and win 3 tough games there, and I think that kind of got us recognized a little bit. And I think now, we're not sneaking up on anybody. We're going to give people best shot. Kids feel good about that, but the thing is we got to go one game at a time because we have bigger goals than just being state ranked.
Rock Creek Boys coach Justin Smith is our guest. You mentioned the Burlington tournament. I know it was a couple of weeks back, but how was that experience? I know you guys were able to come away with a tournament win. Congratulations on that, first off. And, what was that experience like for your team? Was it kind of, what would you say, is like a team bonding experience for your guys to kind of grow chemistry?
Yeah, I appreciate it. But it was like a state type thing as well because we played Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was tough for us because we're driving back and forth every single day. So we're traveling 2 hours one way, 3 different times. And we saw some different teams. We saw a Paola team that was really long and athletic. We saw a Burlington team that was really skilled. And then a Sabetha team that was really physical and, has only lost, 3 games in 2 years. And so I thought our kids did a great job responding to that adversity, and they really came together and were really locked in. It's kind of springboarded us from there.
Yeah, you beat a great Sabetha team, too, by 9 in the championship game. It was close games throughout. And that's a really tough tournament to win in. So to come out of it with a victory, like with as good a victory as you guys had in several of those games, had to be a big confidence boost as well.
It was. And, the Sabetha game, it was a dogfight. They played zone, and they had some big, strong physical kids, and it was hard for us. And really, Coley Burgess got us going in the fourth quarter. I think he hit 4 threes just in the fourth alone. Kind of got a lead and then just kind of ghosted in from there. But it was good to see different styles. It was good to see some different competition and really some really nice teams. Sabetha's real good. Burlington's real good. And for us to go down there and win that when we haven't had a lot of success over the last couple of years, it was a big confidence boost for the Bulls.
Couple more questions from me, Coach. As you look at these last few weeks of the regular season, you guys do have a makeup game against Valley Heights on the 19th, so some of the craziness that you had during January with having to schedule games around. Which opponent do you look at as potentially the biggest challenge for your team?
I'm not gonna lie. In the next 6 games that we have to finish up the season, I don't think there's an easy one left. Our league's really good. I mean, and
Yes.
I think people are starting to see that now since, St. Mary's went up and won the Thunder Classic and also went and won the tournament they were in. And, Silver Lake ended up getting beaten overtime for third place and had the best on the road for the semifinals. Our league's tough. It really is. And, we play everyone. We play everyone again. We played now Wabunsee twice, and we played Riley twice. So we'll have Silver Lake, Rossville, and St. Mary's at home coming up, which will all be tough. And then we'll go on the road to Chapman, which will be tough as well. And then Marysville's been really good, and we'll have them on Tuesday. So every game we're going to have to go out there and compete, and we're going to play some real solid teams. But, that's what this time of year is. You want to be playing your best basketball, and when you're playing those good teams, it's going to make you go out there and compete. But I just know, the boys are excited to play at home because it's been a while.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure to kind of get to follow what you guys have been doing this year, and hopefully you guys can keep up the success the rest of the season. It was a pleasure talking with you, and hopefully we can talk down the road later this season.
That sounds great, and I appreciate the coverage. Thank you.
Rock Creek boys coach Justin Smith joining us there here on Scoreboard Saturday. His team now 13-1 following their 53-31 win last night over Riley County. Marysville is next for them on Tuesday, followed by a Friday battle with St. Mary's. But as I mentioned there, you got 4 of your last 6 games at home. I mean, again, it's kind of that end of the season where you start to kind of stack up a lot of those home games, especially if you play a lot of road games in the beginning of the year. And, I mean, ideally, you like to have your last several games at home rather than have those games on the road. So I think that is definitely something that Justin Smith's team has to be happy about. We'll quickly dive in to the Mid-East League standings. I was getting fumbled up with my words there. I mentioned on the girls' portion how great Silver Lake has been. They are just, incredible. 14-0 overall, 5-0 in Mid-East League play. They have Rossville behind them at 5-1. The top 3 is incredibly tight. Rossville's at 5-1. Wabunsee's at 4-1. They have lost 4 overall games, but they're 4-1 in conference. The Chargers out of Alma. Let me pull them up really quick here. They ended up actually losing to Rossville last night. It was their first loss in conference. Ended up dropping that one 65-42. I have this spreadsheet with all these scores on here, and there's a lot of them, so it takes me a second to pull some of these scores up really quick. But yeah, Wabunsee ends up getting the loss last night on the road, and that's a big one. They do have one more tilt with Rossville on the 13th, so 10 days from now, that could be a big game that ends up determining conference supremacy. But the top of the Mid-East League for girls is pretty darn impressive. On the boys' side, it's a little more determined with Rock Creek doing as well as they're doing, unbeaten. Silver Lake comes in at second with a 3-3 conference record. You got St. Mary's, who is 2-3. Rossville's 2-3. And then Riley County and Wabunsee really kind of not much in the picture right now in conference play. 1-5 are Riley County boys. 0-5 are Wabunsee boys in conference play. That's the music. We have to take our final break here on Scoreboard Saturday. But when we come back, we'll dive into the new KBCA rankings. All coming up next on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications. Final segment here on Scoreboard Saturday, News Radio KMAN, powered by the great folks over at WTC Communications. WTC, keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network, internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game online at WTCKS.com. Final segment here on Scoreboard Saturday on this Saturday, as we will dive now into the newest KBCA rankings that came out on Tuesday. Wrote a little story on it for K-Man. It's on our website. You want to check it out. It's from Thursday. Not a ton of changes in the rankings this week. The number 1 teams remaining the same. Shawnee Mission South at 1 for 6A girls, Andover at 1 for 5A girls. Bishop Miege, we mentioned that a little bit earlier. They're at 1 for 4A girls, with Wamego coming in at 2. Silver Lake, again, incredible team out of 3A. They're at 1 with Topeka Hayden, who Manhattan girls had to play last night, coming in at 2. Rossville at 3 in 3A. And they're another very good team. I mean, the top 2 teams in the Mid-East League for the girls portion are 1-3 in 3A. Riverside is at 1 in 2A, and you got in 1A Division 1 Little River, and in 1A Division 2 you got Labo on the girls portion. Now, for the boys, I clicked on the wrong one there. I mean, basically the same thing. Wichita Heights is at 1. Mays South is at 1 in 5A. McPherson at 1 in 4A. Beloit at 1 in 3A. Linden at 1 in 2A. You got South Gray at 1 in 1A Division 1, and Northern Valley at 1 in 1A Division 2. Axtell comes in at 2 in 1A Division 2. They stay put there. The biggest jump in 6A, Junction City made a decent bump up. They were at 9 last week. They bump up to 7. Olathe North and Olathe South now sitting 8-9, with Blue Valley West coming in at 10. And, I mean, we look at other ones here. I mentioned to Coach Smith in our interview, in 3A boys, you got, or I apologize, 4A boys. You have Rock Creek at 7. I screwed that up there. I had a football and it was in my head there for a second, because Rock Creek's 3A in football. They're coming in at 7 in 4A boys. I mean, they're behind a pretty good Abilene team at 6, and we only talked about them a little bit earlier. They're 12-2, and leading the NCKL by a pretty good margin. So, I mean, again, nothing too substantial here. Everything's kind of staying put. Do I expect major changes by the end of the season? I honestly don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Junction City boys do in 6A. I mean, Wichita Heights up top. You got Shawnee Mission Northwest at 2. Blue Valley Northwest out of Overland Park at 3. I think we could see Junction City maybe bump into the top 5. I wouldn't be surprised by that at any point. And we dive over onto the girls' side of things. I mean, you got Washburn Rural's doing pretty good. They're at 8 in 6A girls. They could make a bump up. Derby currently sitting at 6 over there. The big question, I think, on the girls' side is, who's going to be number 1 out of 4A girls? Bishop Miege is pretty darn good. But so's Wamego. And, Brian McIntosh's team, we spoke to him on the show last week. Only 1 loss for them, and their schedule looks pretty winnable. They got a couple of tough ones, I think, in there. But, there's always, on any given night, you just never know with an opponent. Got Emporia, who's doing just fantastic, leading the Centennial League right now on the girls' side. They come in at 5th in 5A. Andover leads at the top with Seaman at 2, Bishop Carroll at 3, and Mays South at 4, DeSoto at 5. All right, at 6, I apologize. DeSoto at 6, St. Thomas Aquinas at 7. Maybe Emporia makes a bounce up. And it'd be interesting to talk to their coach. We're going to try to see if we can get Emporia girls coach on the program at some point. Out of 3A, we mentioned Silver Lake, Topeka, Hayden, Rossville. Those are 3 very good teams at the top. 3 very good teams. You got Clifton Clyde at 6 in 1A Division 1. Centralia comes in at 3. Centralia girls are very talented, very deep, and very talented. But that top 3 of 3A girls is a gauntlet. I think Silver Lake holds the edge because of their unbeaten record. I'm not going to make any predictions, but they could go unbeaten. And Topeka Hayden's a darn good team, but Manhattan gave them their own last night. And then you got a Rossville team who's very good. Very, very good. Nemaha Central at 6 in the 3A rankings. Very good team as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of the picture's kind of starting to paint itself. Hold on just a second. Apologies for that. The picture's starting to kind of paint itself in the overall rankings and in the standings. Playoffs, I can't make that prediction yet. I just don't know. And they got to, balance out who's going to play who. But you got some very good teams in these rankings. And I think Wamego girls, it's going to be a dogfight to see who takes that top spot in 4A. I think Frankfurt girls, they're going to be definitely another team to keep an eye on. They come in at 5th this week in the Division 1 rankings. We tried to get Brian Ebert on the show, and we had some scheduling issues and just never had an opportunity. So we'll try to get him on at some point, but we tried to get him on this week and had some problems. But we'll try to talk to him at some point this season, hopefully. I'd love to sit down and speak with him about how his team is playing. So Frankfurt, Centralia is good, South Gray is good. I don't know a lot about Hudson out of St. John, and I don't know a ton about Little River, but Centralia is a good team, and Frankfurt's very good. And it'll be interesting to see. Let me pull up my little spreadsheet here and check really quick to see when Frankfurt plays Centralia. I could have just gone to our website because we have the scores. By the way, if you're ever looking for scores for our area teams, Manhattan, Wamego, Junction City, Frankfurt, Blue Valley, Randolph, or Rock Creek or Riley County, you can go to our website, click on the high school tab, and we'll give you the scores. We can also check the standings. I updated the standings this morning, so you can check out the standings as well for the Mideast League, Centennial League, and NCKL. But let me just dive really quickly to see where Frankfurt's at here. Frankfurt girls, when they played Centralia last night, ironically enough, and were losers to them 42-47. So bumping up in the rankings is going to be tough now. If they had won last night, they make a compelling argument to potentially move up 2 spots in the rankings. But they got time. I think, regardless of where they finish, they're going to be pleased regardless of what they can do. Their next contest with Centralia will be on... They don't have another contest with them. They won't play Centralia anymore. They got Axtell on Monday, Troy, Onaga, Washington County, and Lynn to wrap up their schedule before Sub-State starts back up. They only play Centralia one time this season. All right, folks, we have to get on out of here. The Kim Commando Show coming up next. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank Justin Smith again for sitting down with us, as well as Scott Mall and Tony Ingram, who was filling in for Benji George. Manhattan High, of course, 3 of 5 next week. Next game against Washburn Roll will be at 7 o'clock on News Radio KMAN. That's an online broadcast. So make sure to check out our website, newsradiokman.com. We got to go. Have a good one, everybody. Go Cats.